July 15th, 1943, Thurley Airfield, England. The Secretary of War has flown in from Washington. 7 generals stand at attention. A military band waits to play. Reporters from 2 radio networks crowd the tarmac with notebooks open. They have come to watch a staff sergeant receive the Medal of Honor, the first living enlisted airman in the European theater to earn it. There is only one problem. Nobody can find him. While the generals wait, a search begins across the base. The man they are looking for is 32 years old, a decade older than most of the crew he flew with. 6 weeks earlier, he had done something almost no one believed he was capable of. This is Echoes of Valor X. Today we tell the true story of Maynard Harrison Smith. Smith was born May 19, 1911, in Cairo, Michigan. His father was an attorney, his mother a schoolteacher. He was not poor, he was not an orphan. He was, by most accounts, spoiled, sent to a military academy as a teenager to correct a reputation for trouble that never quite went away. By his early 30s, that trouble had followed him into adulthood. Smith was given a choice: enlist or face the consequences of his conduct as a civilian. He chose the Army Air Forces. He trained as an aerial gunner. He was assigned to the ball turret, the glass and steel spheres slung beneath a B-17 Flying Fortress, the loneliest and most exposed position on the aircraft. His crewmates did not warm to him. He showed up late. He skipped briefings. They called him Snuffy, not as an honor, but as a joke. On May 1st, 1943, Staff Sergeant Maynard Smith flew his first combat mission. The target was the German U-boat pens at Saint-Nazaire, on the coast of occupied France. The airmen who flew there had a name for it: Flak City. 18 B-17s from the 306th Bombardment Group dropped their bombs with little resistance. The trouble came on the way home. A navigation error pulled the formation too close to German-held territory. German fighters rose to meet them. Flak tore into Smith's aircraft. A fuel tank in the wing ruptured. Fuel poured into the fuselage and ignited. The oxygen system, critical at altitude, fed the flames. Smith's ball turret lost power. He cranked it open by hand and climbed back inside the burning plane. The radio operator and both waist gunners had already jumped. They were never found. They are believed to have gone down in the English Channel. The tail gunner lay wounded, hit by shrapnel in the chest. Smith could not see the pilots through the smoke, but the aircraft was still flying level. He made a decision. He stayed. For the next 90 minutes, Smith did not stop moving. He threw burning ammunition overboard before it could explode. He manned 2 waist machine guns, alternating between them to hold off German fighters. He gave first aid to the wounded tail gunner, and he fought the fire, with extinguishers, until they ran dry. Here's where it gets strange. When the extinguishers were empty and the flames kept spreading, Smith began using his own urine to put them out. He wrapped his hands in protective cloth and beat down what remained of the fire by hand. Smith would later describe the 90 minutes as feeling like a dream. One continuous motion between the fire, the wounded man, and the guns, with no clear memory of where one task ended and the next began. The pilots somehow kept the aircraft level. They found the nearest airfield in England and brought it down. The B-17 had more than 3,500 bullet and shrapnel holes in its frame. On landing, it broke in half. Everyone aboard survived. Smith's pilot, Lieutenant Lewis Johnson, recommended him for the Medal of Honor. 6 weeks later, on July 15, 1943, the ceremony was arranged. The first time a Secretary of War would personally present the medal in a combat theater. 7 generals, 2 radio networks, a flyover of 18 bombers scheduled overhead, and no Smith. It turned out that days earlier, Smith had missed another briefing, late returning from leave, again. He had been assigned a week of KP duty as punishment. A search of the base found him in the mess hall, scraping food from steel trays. He was pulled from kitchen duty, cleaned up, dressed in uniform, and walked out to stand before Secretary of War Henry Stimson, who placed the Medal of Honor around his neck, while generals saluted. When the ceremony ended, a reporter pushed forward and asked Smith whether facing the Secretary of War and the press was harder than the fire over Saint-Nazaire. Smith said only, "Thank you." He flew 4 more combat missions after the ceremony. Then he was grounded. what doctors at the time called operational exhaustion. Today, it would be recognized as post-traumatic stress. Smith never flew again. He was reassigned to clerical work, and even there, he struggled. In December 1944, the Army reduced him in rank, from staff sergeant to private, a demotion handed to a Medal of Honor recipient. He returned home to Cairo, Michigan in February 1945. The town gave him a hero's parade anyway. He was honorably discharged 3 months later. The years after the war were not easy ones. Smith ran into legal trouble. His relationships did not last. He eventually settled into a quiet life in Florida. He died of heart failure on May 11, 1984, 8 days before his 73rd birthday. He is buried at Arlington National Cemetery among men who, in his own lifetime, did not particularly want to fly with him. War correspondent Andy Rooney, who covered the story for Stars and Stripes the day Smith was found on KP duty, would later sum up the man in a single line: that whatever else could be said of him, for 90 minutes over Saint-Nazaire, Maynard Smith was exactly who his country needed him to be. America still stands because of men like this, even the ones it never quite knew what to do with. Subscribe so these men are never forgotten.